Hi guys, so welcome back to the channel. It's been a minute. A lot have changed and it's going to be a earlier clip than this, but my memory chip was full. What'd you say to Ivory? Hold up, Miss Ivory need my help. So as I was saying, it's been a minute. I've had a lot to upload. I don't know if I still will upload the house crisis and then the house emergency crisis and then upload this video, but it is March 1st. Yeah, there's a lot changed within the last month. I was very sick. The kids got a cold, so I was sick for 3 weeks, and the reason I think I was sick, I picked up from the kids. I was ovulating, I was cramping. Yeah, everything I thought was wrong, yeah, it was something else totally different going on. So I got the MIRENA last year because what was happening is my flow, my cycle bleeding was very heavy, to the point like it was really affecting with me being like low iron, anemic, like my levels was really low. And then I always thought, like, people say, oh, you're just a heavy flower. That can be in some cases, but in some cases it can be bad. Like, it can, if I guess they say, like, because all in my family it's always been like, oh, you're just a heavy flower, but in a doctor's point of view is that if you're going through a pad within an hour, like you're filling that pad up within an hour, in my case I was filling up a pad plus tampons and it was still leaking, filling up the pad halfway. And so but I was going in because I was cramping a lot. So then we found out that I had a lot of cysts and fibroids on my uterus. Like, it was about 6 or 7 of them, and they were like, some was like small and some was like pretty large, so they were really like painful. It was like really bad cramps, but it was like a constant ache. So I went in to get checked at my OB office and stuff, and so they was like gonna do an ultrasound and stuff, and then they were telling me like, well, you have a lot of fibroids, but you also have a lot of cysts. And then they were like, then the doctor was like, let me get another doctor opinion. I'm like, why would you need another doctor's opinion? Like, unless something is really going on. And so we found out that I had thickening of the lining of my uterus. It was very thick. And they said like that can lead to cancer, because a lot of times like the thickening of the lining of your uterus is like dead cells. That is what we supposed to shed when we have our periods. And so they were saying like that can be one of the main reasons why I was having really heavy bleeding and periods, because my uterus had a lot to shed and it still was not shedding. It was still too thick. So yeah, so their thing was, I was not on birth control. I wasn't planning on getting on birth control, but it was recommended because of what they were seeing and history. So this is like, I have history of these type of cases. I have a history of getting cysts, fibroids. You just have, like, I was just prone to getting them. So the doctor had suggested that, but this was after care. So basically what we had to do is they had to, I was on my cycle, and then they had to stop my cycle. Then they had to start my cycle. Then they had to stop my cycle. And then they had to start my cycle. So basically they did this process within 4 times in that month, because they were basically just making me have periods. One second. My mom is calling. They were making me have periods. Let me tell her. I'll call her right back. Call you right back. Let me get this alarm. So they were basically making me have cycles, stop cycles, because what they were doing is that, so every time I went through the process of a cycle starting, a cycle ending, I would have to go in for an ultrasound, and they would look at the lining of my uterus, and if they wasn't happy with it, or if they didn't see that it wasn't down enough, I would have to start the process over again, and then they would have to stop it. They would stop it, and then they would start it. So it's kind of like having 4 periods in one month. That's basically like, can you tell you how much pain you're in? And then so also what had happened is what wound up leading me into seeing them is before I went, I was in so much pain, and I said we already talked. My doctor had told me like a week before that she seen that I had a lot of fibroids, I had a lot of cysts, and so 2 of the cysts wind up rupturing, and so I literally was like hunched over, trying to drag 2 kids with me to the emergency. And then that's when they had like, they literally was pushing pain meds to my through my IVs because I was in so much pain. And they were trying to be so gentle. But yeah, it was like, yeah, you had some ruptured cysts that had happened, and so it was like, it was a lot going on, and so they was like recommending that I have to do a follow-up, and they were recommending do my follow-up. When I went in for my follow-up, and they did another ultrasound, and that's when they discovered that the lining of my uterus was too thick, that it was affecting my blood levels, it was affecting my iron. Like I was on like double like iron pills, like the biggest one you can be on, and my iron level still was like, they was like, are you taking it? They didn't think I was taking the iron pills, and I said I am, but I'm bleeding very, very, very heavy. And I kind of like, that's the same thing happened in birth. If I bleed heavy, most of the time I do, my iron levels drop below a 5, and that's always have happened out of my pregnancies, even with miscarriages, that have always happened. So what we had to do is, so they recommend once we figured and got all that under control, they recommend like 1 hormone, so whatever the MIRENA is, instead of they're like a 2 hormone birth control, and they're like 1 hormone birth control. I don't know the difference, but that's what it is. So she recommended I get the MIRENA, I get on the birth control to control the heaviness of the period, so it's not so heavy, it's not really draining me. You really, like, when you're anemic or your levels are low, you really are like beyond tired, like you're just exhausted. So we got the MIRENA in, and I still had like, after they forced my body to have those periods, I still had 2 periods 3 months later. So in that 3-month span, I got it in February. So March I had 2 periods, April I had 2 periods, and May I had 2 periods. And June is kind of where it started to weed out. It was only 1 period instead of the 7 long day cycle. It was a 1 day. It was 5 days. And so that happened. But where we're at today is, yes. So I was cramping with this February. I was cramping from the beginning of February until like now. I still have a little cramping, but I was cramping. It was like, it just kept getting worse. Like, it was like, it wasn't weeding out, it was consistent. It just would not go away. It would either be more or just be a consistent mild cramping. And so I said, and I just told Sean, I said, tell him, like, I really don't feel good. I think I told him for that about like a week, especially when I felt really exhausted. Like, I was taking naps. I really don't normally have to take a nap, but I was taking naps. I was crashing with Miss Ivy Girl. And then what spiked me to go and be more curious, my boobs were hurting. Like, normally with my cycles, you just get like a little sensitive, like but these babies was aching. Like, you want hot towels, put them in the shower. They were really, 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 I said, this seemed more like pregnancy. And the thing is, I had 2 throw up incidents, and it was in the middle of the night, but I put nothing to it. I thought because I was still considered eating a little bit dairy, so that was like probably just a little upset to find out, yeah, we're pregnant. And so I went in, I checked, I took a test, and it wound up being positive. I thought maybe the test is wrong, so I took 8, which is normal urine. I didn't do morning urine, and all the tests came back positive. So I called because I'm panicking, because I'm still on the birth control. I'm still on the MIRENA. So a lot of times if you get pregnant on the MIRENA, you can be pregnant in your tubes, your fallopian tubes, which can be really, really, really bad. And so I called that because I found out Sunday, so I called Saturday. So I called Monday morning my doctor's office, and they was like, they was like, no, you need to come in today. But the way they changed their policy, you're no longer allowed to have your kids in the ultrasound with you anymore. They have to be over the age of 18 to be with you. And so I did not have any, it's just us, we don't really have family down here, so I didn't have anyone that could keep the kids. And so I just had to call around, because they were really like, I said, can I come in Wednesday or Thursday. My husband doesn't work, and it was like, no, we need to see you now, because if you got a positive pregnancy test, we need to figure out, is your birth control in place, is it out of place, what is going on. And so I got in contact with one of the ladies at the church. So she came over, she took me, and she had the kids, so we all could just go one time. And so she kept the kids out in the office, like they still was in the office. And it was like, yeah, the doctor came back, was like, yeah, the test is positive, but we don't know where your birth control is. We don't know where your Mirena implant is. It's not where it's supposed to be. We cannot find it. But also the thing I had told him is something was sticking me in my freaking vagina. Like every time I would bend or you move a certain way, something was sticking me. And I'm like, so she was like, you sure you didn't bypass? Did it not pass out of you? I'm like, I'm pretty sure I would have felt it pass out of me, because it hurts. It hurts going in. It really, really, really hurts going in. You really, really crampy. So I think this is because of what we found. So the birth control, the Mirena, was in my vagina. Like, it was out of my cervix, but it didn't pass out of my vagina. So it was out of the cervix, but it was not out of my vagina. So, but this is before we knew. So the doctor come in and was like, yeah, it can be in your stomach. We need to figure out where it's at. So I'm just going to check you. And so she just checked with her hand. It was really painful. I was like shaking. I was crying, because it was really, like I already said, like I'm really cramping. So the cramping still haven't let up. So I'm really, really cramping. And then she's in there digging around, and then you can feel that whatever she was trying to touch was sticking me, like was hurting. And so she's like, I think I found it, but she could not reach it with her hands. So she got like the biggest clamps that she can get, and all you just hear like she presses this big button and says she needs something for them to break, and they broke it in. But it was kind of like if you're trying to get out a mini, like you get a really tiny piece of glass in your hand, and you're trying to get it out with tweezers. So that's kind of like how it felt, and I was shaking, I was crying, and then kept telling me it's okay. She kept apologizing because it was really painful. So she's in there, and she's trying to go back and like find it, because it was seemed to be on my left side at the top. And so she's like this. It's like you feel her trying, like she's trying to grip it, but she kept losing the grip of it. And so it's like every time she was like pinching the inside of my coochie, basically my vagina. And so it was like this. It was very, very painful, because it's kind of like somebody's pinching, basically, it's pinching you. And so she finally got it out, and it hurt. Even like, I know, like I said, you would have felt that come out of you, because when she pulled it out, it hurt. Like, even though she had me clamped open, I still felt it to come out. And she was like, we got it. And but this was another concern, is because when they did the ultrasound, we did not see any they didn't see any baby they didn't even see a sac, they didn't see a baby. And so she was worried that I was pregnant in my tubes, and which that's why, or she was saying that I could be so early that you cannot see the baby yet on the ultrasound, or it just wasn't visible. And so she made me, I had to do blood work every 48 hours. And basically the reason of doing that is to see if my HCC cell levels are going up. She said most time if I was pregnant in my tubes, my HCC levels would not be tripling or going up, or they would go up really, really, really slow. If I had excruciating pain, that I am to not wait to go to the doctor. I need to go call 911, or I need to go straight to the emergency room, because my fallopian tube could have ruptured. So basically that was the main things we had to watch for the last week or two. We have made it safely to 5 weeks. I'm due to go for my 8-week ultrasound March 21st. So far the cramping stopped a ton after the IDU was removed, but it was still mild. It just wasn't, but it wasn't until the next day, because, and I'm thinking that's what happened, because if you read what happens, like if your birth control, if you get it removed, you're going to have a lot of cramping. So I'm thinking that's what happened, is just the birth control came out of place and could have been causing a lot of the cramping. Even if ovulation, it just could have made it even worse. So, but thank God, we're doing better. Morning sickness have started. Well, not morning sickness, night sickness. I'm not sick in the morning. I'm sick at night. And I took a prenatal at night. Oh my gosh, it was over. I vomited all on the bathroom floor, behind the toilet and all, just by taking a prenatal vitamin. So I'm probably going to try to find another prenatal vitamin, like a gummy or something that's coated that'll be easier to go down, because it didn't even make it past here. Like once it started to dissolve, it was like ugh. And so that's my thing. So we are it's a surprise. I'm not going to lie, I was scared. I still am a little scared. I think I'll be more reassurance once we get our 8-week ultrasound. That's what they plan for me to get, is an 8-week ultrasound. I already had my first, but they're planning to do another one. More lab work to make sure my levels are going up. So my first levels was 420, and so within 48 hours they went from 420 to like 1,800 and something. So she's like, yeah, your levels are definitely tripling and going up like they're supposed to be going up. And so far we're not ready. I'm not ready, but I think because I'm so used to being a prepared person. I'm prepared. We have no baby stuff. We got rid of everything because I had already said after I turned 30, I wouldn't have any more kids. I wouldn't plan to have any more kids. And the thing is, we wasn't on birth control to prevent pregnancy. We was on birth control for my menstrual, my cycle. And then the crazy thing, so to find out that I still like this is crazy, because I just had to I just got my results for my ultrasound, and I do have cysts again, and my uterus is tilted backwards. So it's called like a tipped pelvis. So the crazy thing is, though, they had said a lot of time, because I had it since a raise. Like they said, normally pregnancy would help like shift it down or shift it back in place. Yeah, that's never happened. So I've always have had a tilted pelvis since the beginning, that I have always gotten ultrasounds. But I said that also can be the case because when I was younger, I had a incident down there, and so that's another reason. Like when I was getting checked, and because of the history, they said you're probably not going to rip even with your first pregnancy. They said because normally those muscles that will stretch, yours is already stretched and torn, so they was like stitched back together, but they was stitched back with like those liquid stitches, so they kind of like dissolve. So she was like, you're very like stretch down there. So my kids just really slide out within 3 to 4 pushes. Ivory just wouldn't even wait. She was almost fully head out. And so they were telling me like, there's like, you probably, she was telling me, she's like, you probably won't even rip. I was like, I never rip. And she's like, because these muscles, looking at what she's looking at, she said, the way they stitched you and the way whatever happened, kind of like helped expand. So those are already expanded muscles. So I did not rip with either of my kids. Like they just like literally, I felt like they just slid out. And actually it was crazy because with a Rez, the doctor literally stuck his whole hand in to the way his head and turned his head. Like, and my mom was like, you don't feel that? Like, it doesn't hurt. Like, you can feel the pressure, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, he stopped, get out of me. And he just went in to turn him so he can be hocking. Because I told you guys the way my pelvis is tilted back. So he said it would be easier if he could turn the baby for me. And then the baby would come out easier. And that was happening.
Mommy, I just see the fish tail.
You see the fish tail?
Yeah.
Okay, don't put your hand in there. You can talk to Fishy.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. So we have not told the kids yet. And the crazy thing is that the kids are the ones that predicted the whole time that I was sick. The kids are the ones that's basically told me that mommy has a baby in her tummy. Like, Ivory's been kissing my belly. Like, we haven't announced to them that we are pregnant or they're going to have a sister or brother. And it was just so, Arrays was debating with me, like, he's like, can I have a sister or a brother? And I was like, I think you should be okay with your sister.
So fast.
Oh, he moving fast?
He's like,
oh, okay, be careful. And so, and Miss Ivory has been like attached to me. Yeah. So normally kids will give you space, but they really been really clingy to me. And so we're going to reveal to them on Easter, which I'll be close to get a second ultrasound. So I'll have my 8-week ultrasound, and then I'll have my 12-week ultrasound from what my doctor told me, just to make sure everything is going good. But thank you guys for watching. I know it's a long video, but this is what happened within the last month, and I'm starting to feel a little bit better, but morning sickness is kicking in. A lot of the cramping have subsided. It's only at night, which I think is just a position of sleeping. I sleep in, and so yeah, we'll go from here. We have about 3 weeks, and we go back for our next appointment. So thank you guys for watching. Peace out.